Onimusha Dawn of Dreams. While not gifted a number like the mainline series, this game does carry on after 3, but does a lot to separate itself from the mainline series and what it built. So let's get into that.
It was an event foretold to us since the first Onimusha.
My name is Tokichiro Kinoshita.
This man will eventually conquer the world under the name Hideyoshi Toyotomi.
While it slept soundly in the back of our minds, each Onimusha title only gave us a glimpse of what was to come, until the release of Onimusha Dawn of Dreams.
This light is only the beginning, O wise Tenkai. Unless the Black Oni appears, you don't stand a chance.
Several years had passed, and the heroes we knew were nowhere to be found. It seems what Samanosuke said was true. The world fell into the clutches of Hideyoshi, where it has remained ever since. But not all is set in stone, for rumors of the Oni of the Ash disappearance could spell out a new beacon of hope that rests in our new protagonist, Soki. Soki at first seems to travel only with his companion Minokichi.
Yep,
Are you ready?
yep, I'm fully prepared.
Hate that. He attempts to burn down Hideyoshi's special cherry trees in an attempt to damper a grander scheme. What starts as 2 quickly becomes more, as Soki is joined by Jubei Yagyu, but not that one. While taking the title of Jubei, her real name is Akane, who is one of the descendants of the Yagyu clan. As their journeys continue, they'll meet other characters like Tenkai, a mysterious Oni with a familiar presence that totally isn't Samanosuke.
That's Samanosuke, I got the soundtrack right here.
Ohatsu, who is an old friend of Soki, but has ties between him and her former clan under Hideyoshi that Soki stands against. And Roberto, a priest with a mean punch. Punching for Jesus! While similar to the friendships that blossomed throughout Onimusha 2, Dawn of Dreams takes the idea of side characters assisting you through your journey to the next level, with any one character being able to accompany Soki at any time, each with their own unique abilities and weapons. They'll work together, developing and setting aside differences to try and put an end to the ever-growing Ginma menace. It's kind of refreshing to say that and not have to talk about Nobunaga for a change. The deeper involvement of these characters is one of the examples of what separates this game. Their involvement not only changes the gameplay, but also the entire format of the stages and the way they're played. With each character comes different playstyles, which you can utilize by switching between Soki and your selected character. Soki, Tenkai, and Jubei have direct approaches, Roberto can act a bit quicker, and Ohatsu is more of a ranged character. Alongside this, each character has an ability unique to only them. Only certain parts of a level can be traversed with the right character. Jubei is able to enter cramped areas and walk on logs to get to treasures or hidden areas. Ohatsu wields explosives to bust through Ginma-sealed walls and has a grappling hook to get past obstacles. Roberto can open doors and knock large obstacles out of the way, and Tenkai can speak to the dead, which can give him hints and items. This deep-centered involvement means that levels will have to be replayed so that each new area can be reached. Instead of heading directly from one place to the next, Soki has a small hub world where he can accomplish a bit of things before jumping back into the fray. For instance, characters like Jubei and Tenkai can forge up to 3 items for Soki, from materials you might find around the stages. This can be anything from items for health and magic to equipment that you can wear, which brings us to the next topic, equipment. While accessories were a thing in Onimusha 3 like Akko's vest, these items pertain more to each character's stats. Equipping rings, chokers, and jewelry can give your characters bonuses to their attack, magic, and can even increase your meters. Stats are also a big part of this game. Brandishing a shiny new level up system, Soki and others can level up from defeating Ginma and gaining experience. With these level ups come ability points that you can apply to certain aspects of your team. like basic attack power, to the ability to parry, and powering up certain abilities can even teach your characters new abilities, as opposed to learning them with scrolls like from Onimusha 2. All of this brings a bigger sense of worth to what you're doing. It's a step up from Onimusha 1, where you could have all your weapons and armor maxed out halfway through your playthrough. The Oni specialty to use souls to enhance your weapons and armor is one trait that still remains true to this installment, but this time around you'll have plenty of weapons and armor to upgrade and level up. And this applies to Soki and his 4 other allies. As their weapons gain levels, they'll unlock abilities and magic within the weapons themselves. Like previous installments, each weapon is attuned to one element, and the amount of weapons any one character can obtain gets a little overwhelming. Progressing each stage plays as you'd expect, but with a few minor changes from what you might be used to. Being accompanied by another character means using them to find more puzzle boxes to unlock more weapons. But these are about the only traditional puzzles you'll see, as the format of each stage is based around you having 2 characters, needing you to utilize both of them to solve stage puzzles. Beyond that, your other character can be commanded to suit your preference. They can use an ability unique to themselves, full-on attack enemies, or hang back and recover health while defending. The combat itself can mirror the other Onimushas with aerial camera angles that follow the player slowly, but for the most part usually sticks behind the back of the player as you traverse levels. And this is probably one of the biggest decisions that really alienate me from the idea that I'm playing an Onimusha game. While fixed camera angles were on their way out the door with later installments, this bigger push to have the camera constantly behind the player where the camera can only be moved at times really doesn't do it for me.
The level system, skills, and utilizing characters to make them more accessible throughout the stages is something I highly approve of. It's just a lot of other things that put a damper on this game's overall quality.
I tried to get behind the combat, I really did, but overall it comes off feeling really stale. During my playthrough I never really thought about what weapon I was using. The combat was smooth, but nearly every weapon comes off feeling exactly the same, save for the heavy broadsword weapons. And that's where I think this game kind of missed the point. Calling back to Onimusha 1, what weapon you were wielding was imperative at nearly all times. You wouldn't use the Inryu against the faster ninjas, if you could help it, and facing powerful bosses would have you making informed decisions on how fast you'd want to attack. And that was all based on what weapon you were using. With Dawn of Dreams, it all comes off as feeling the same, with just an added bonus of elements. But the elements themselves also take a big hit in terms of quality, with most weapons performing the same way but adding whatever element you're using, instead of performing a special move for each weapon that combines their element to work with the attack. Dawn of Dreams trades this out for chaining together combo attacks that can critically damage foes. And it looks great, but when nearly every weapon pretty much performs and works the same way with the added bonus of some type of element, it gets so stale a few hours in. Calling back to the bosses, you'll either fight these giant Genma beasts or a regular one-on-one fight that is just a bigger part of the story. Fighting the single enemies can be a bit fun, with quick decisions being needed to stay alive. However, the fight against Sakan Shima was one of the most one-sided fights I've encountered in the entire series, with his ability to spawn a frontal aura being a major problem. With automatic knockback and stun lock that will keep you pinned against a wall, this was one instance where I could feel this fight wasn't planned out too well. As for the bigger Genma beast, it's usually figuring out their patterns and slowly grinding away at them, which is just a real slog and hardly any fun at all. But surely with the help of your characters it's not that bad, right? Well, no. While neat to have characters by your side throughout most every level, when it comes to them actually doing something worthwhile, you'll mostly be disappointed. Your friends can help, but their AI instincts to just run into enemies and do whatever really endangers them more than it helps you. And this is twice as true for bosses, with their hitboxes mostly pertaining to if you touch them. This spells an instant death for them, because either fighting alongside you or rushing in will spell out them dying or wasting your health items either way. I found it mostly useful to have them defend and distract enemies. And while I'm on about the cons of this game, we have to talk about this abysmal menu system. Look at this, item, examine, and equip are all things that could be in one little slot. I hate how distracting it all is from you just trying to do one thing. Remember Onimusha 1's menu? It had a side tab for files and documents, and everything else you needed was just right there for you. With this menu, I feel like it could easily be condensed, but just wasn't. But now, leaning back to the positives, this game has probably one of the most unique and interesting stories of the entire series. And that's not just because Nobunaga's not there. And the characters that are with you for nearly the beginning of the game develop and evolve themselves really well. None of them feel forced, and their gradual utilization into scenarios makes for a much deeper quality of storytelling. Add on to that, this game is pretty long, spanning over 2 discs, and with levels being able to be revisited and explored with new characters, your playtime is greatly increased when compared to the first 2 games being anywhere between 3 to 8 hours. And with each character getting their own realm to enter, you could be here for a long time. Being honest here, I really do like each character, but the one that comes off the weakest is Soki. He's not bad, but it does feel like he changes to this level-headed character that sometimes comes off as a little cocky. While this isn't terrible, it does feel a little inconsistent to his personality, and he really just feels like my least favorite protagonist of the series. Dawn of Dreams is most definitely not a bad game and keeps with the smoothness and fluidity that Onimusha is known for. But at the same time, a lot of the elements that made Onimusha shine are either watered down here or non-existent at all. Dawn of Dreams also shows a noticeable lack of budget, with a lot of the transitions being narrated still shots of characters, and even some of the bosses don't have death animations. Rather, they just dissolve into another scrolling text story, and that speaks volumes when compared to just how good Onimusha 3 looked. This game definitely boasts some impressive visuals, but when it's every other scene and what you're presented with varies in such dramatic quality, it's a little staggering. However, the same cannot be said for the music. The music is one of the best aspects of the game, with powerful techno beats infused with a lot of Asian instruments. Nearly every battle theme to even just the hub world is just an absolute pleasure to listen to. I would confidently say that Dawn of Dreams holds one of the best soundtracks of the entire series. And that's kind of how Onimusha Dawn of Dreams comes off to me. Mixed. While not bad in any regard, it certainly doesn't hit to the levels that I felt the original 3 games had already reached in certain aspects. While definitely worth a playthrough for the experience and story alone, wrapping everything up nicely, I feel this game should be played for the conclusion for the series' long story, but it's definitely something that could have had a bit more effort thrown in certain departments. It's not a bad note to finish on regarding the series, but it definitely falls short of being the greatest that only a few series ever achieve. Thanks for watching.
And that's it! We've covered every Onimusha game in existence. Well, I guess there is the mobile game, but no.
Hey guys, thanks for checking out this review, and a big thanks to all of you who have followed me through this journey through each Onimusha game. Well, at least till Onimusha 5 or whatever comes out. I'll see you then, keep it practical, and stay safe.